Hey, somebody needs to get bug spray. You have? Excellent. Good morning, afternoon, or evening. You are listening to The Professional Noticer. Hello, everyone. I'm Andy Andrews. Hey, thank you for making me a part of your week. My purpose here today and with every show we do is to play the part of a best friend or a coach. I want to help you live the life of your wildest dreams by giving you access to the greatest mentors the world has to offer today. This week, The Professional Noticer is sponsored by wisdomharbor.com. Hey, here are a couple of quick questions. First question, how long has the public school system in your state been repeating the mantra, more money for education, more money for education? And the second question, through the years, as they have gotten more money, how much has changed? This week, The Professional Noticer is sponsored by wisdomharbor.com. Today, families and school systems all over America are finding wisdomharbor.com's one-of-a-kind streaming service to be the perfect, low-cost, high-quality educational tool for their students. Wisdom Harbor's stated responsibility is to create the next greatest generation, starting with your hometown and your school system. For less than $3 a month per teacher, classrooms have access to original content only found on wisdomharbor.com that teaches, entertains, and builds character in young people while creating conversations between young people and the adults in their community. Utilizing video, audio, and the written word, content is delivered in small bites by Grammy winners, CEOs, comedians, chefs, best-selling authors, and Hall of Fame speakers. There are even guitar lessons from an award-winning songwriter. Check it out today and join your friends and neighbors who are already a part of wisdomharbor.com. And isn't it time your schools got involved? Wisdomharbor.com, creating America's next greatest generation, starting with your hometown. Observations and answers, that's what we do here on The Professional Noticer. And as you know, if you're a long-time listener, a long-time viewer, we love it when somebody comes to the table with both. If we can get one person that has some observations and some answers, that's just a bonus. And we have that today. We have a person I've known about for a long time, but is a new friend. And this person is, I say, one of those things like, okay, well, what do you pick out of this bio to say? She's a Yale Law School graduate. She works as a lawyer now. She is an entrepreneur. She is an author. And I would tell you, there's a lot of people who have written books. And so when I say that somebody is an author, I mean that seriously, because this, I'm going to tell you about her book, but she has written a children's book. And it's not really a children's book. It's kind of a teenage book to me.
An adult.
Yeah, young adult. And this book, I'll tell you about it in a minute, but it's called Smack Dab in the Middle of Maybe. Please welcome the author and our friend, Jo Hackl. Hey, Jo.
Thank you so much, Andy. I tell you what, that is such a kind introduction, and I'm just honored to be on your podcast and in your presence.
Well, I'm glad you're here. I want to ask you so many things because when you and I connected, I was like, oh my gosh, I've heard of that book, and there's for somebody like me to write a novel, and that's one thing. But it's like a huge lottery win to get your children's book recognized. And this book, Smack Dab in the Middle of Maybe, it's a Random House book, and it won the Southern Book Award. This was Amazon's teacher's pick. It was a Read Across America pick. So just unbelievable. And
Thank you.
how I think I've got this right, but I want to know your process of writing it first, because when we met, I went on Amazon and I bought it and I read it and I was amazed. I told my wife, I said, man, this lady can really write. This is like kind of brilliant writing,
Thank you.
Yeah. What was your process? I mean, how'd you get this idea about Smack Dab in the Middle of Maybe? it's very unique.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Well, like many Southerners, I grew up, I think we're kind of natural storytellers, and I always wanted to be a writer. And I always wanted to write a novel. And I love solving problems as a lawyer. After we had children, I went part-time and I'm now of counsel. And I love engaging that analytical side of the brain. But that creative side of my brain is right out there too. And when I had, shall we call, a milestone birthday, um, it hit me that if I was going to write a novel, I needed to get busy writing a novel. So my undergrad degrees were double major political science economics, took one English class my whole undergrad. So I really spent 10 years learning the craft of writing. I've always been a great reader, but reading as are you, but reading more and more books. And then I knew that my book was going to be something that involved outdoor survival, as you might imagine, with a name like Joe. I have spent. My father doesn't have any sons, so I was it.
You were it. Yeah.
I was it. I've spent a lot of time outdoors, but I started more formally studying outdoors, and I started with an idea. So I grew up in an overgrown Mississippi ghost town. And for me, it was a really intriguing place to grow up. And
I know where you grew up.
You do,
Yeah,
yes.
because I have heard the name of this place all my life, and I think that is the coolest name of any town. Can I say it?
Sure.
Electric Mills.
Yes.
Is that cool?
And it is so cool. And did you know that it used to be called the brightest town east of St. Louis? Because it had in a time when most of the South, didn't have electricity, particularly not the rural South. This town was lit up because it was built around a big uh, stand of virgin lumber, and they generate electricity to run their mill. They lit up the town. It was an enormous town. Folks who are familiar with Mississippi, folks from Meridian and Columbus would come to Electric Mills for the quality of its hospital. It had a 350, just amazing.
Hospital, it had churches, it had a movie theater, right?
Yes, a theater. It had baseball teams, a school, beautiful houses. And in fact, my dad retired from the military, and when we moved to Electric Mills, I lived in one of the last remaining houses while our house was being constructed on what was the horse pasture for the old town. So yeah, I got to kind of experience that.
You describe in smack dab in the middle of Mabee, you describe that area now, I think, very well, creepily.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Is it really like this? I've never been there to go through that, but I mean, you explained when the mill was done, they took all the houses.
Just about. So they left just a few houses. So the description of the of the town is a little bit fictionalized. But when I lived in the town, they had poured the sidewalks about 9 inches thick. So I could walk forever on these really thickly poured sidewalks through overgrown woods, and I could see the toppled over pillars where the houses used to be. I could see things people had planted in their front yard. About now, you can still see in the town daffodils coming up around what used to be somebody's house. You could see privet bushes they planted in the back, but that you could see the squished down place where the house used to be, but there was no house. So to me, that was really intriguing. And then you ask about the inspiration, and then the other inspiration is my favorite artist is Walter Inglis Anderson. Artist on the Mississippi Gulf Coast, Ocean Springs. I'm an enormous fan of his work, and so I used his secret room to inspire a clue trail. And so I took Outdoor Adventure in this overgrown ghost town and a clue trail inspired by Walter Anderson and put it all together in one book.
I was halfway. I was halfway through the book, and I told Polly, I said, I think, I think this is Walter Anderson that she's like kind of talking about, and
Yep,
that's who you did the character after, obviously.
I did. It's of course a fictionalized version, but it is inspired by him, and he is just a brilliant artist, and he really demonstrated in his life so many of the qualities that you talk about in your work, and perseverance, not giving up, that perspective,
Right.
and believing in himself and his art, and sticking with it through all those years.
And I'm sure you've been to the Walter Anderson Museum. I mean, you
I
have to.
have,
Yeah.
I
Okay.
have,
All
yes,
right.
yes, and they
They
let
probably
me.
have a room named after you there.
Not, no, no, not yet. But they did let me have a little bit of private time in the little room, which is the room that inspired the bird room in Smack Dab.
Right.
And it is just breathtaking for any of your listeners who have not yet been to the Walter Anderson Museum of Art. You got to go.
Yeah. It is really something. It is really something. Before I go on to some different topics, I want to ask you one more thing about smack dab in the middle of maybe, and that is, I started reading that thinking that was like a book for 12 or 14-year-olds, and maybe my personality is like a 12 or 14-year-old or something, but I I read this book and I thought, I like this. I like
But
this. I can see how a 14-year-old would love it, but they're not gonna like it any more than I did. I mean, I really, really, really got into the book. And
well, thank you. Thank
yeah,
you.
and so I would urge you guys, all our listeners and viewers, where would you prefer people go to get the book?
Well, I always prefer independent bookstores. I'm a big believer in supporting independent bookstores.
Right?
And if your local bookstore happens to not have it in stock, bookstore.org has it. And so you can always order it there. Any other online retailer also has it. And if anyone would like a personalized signed book plate, they can always reach out to me through my website. And I'm always happy to send personalized
Good,
signature.
good, good. We're gonna put all your information on the show notes, and so it'll be there. Joe, why do you think there's so many writers from Alabama and Mississippi and Georgia and North Florida and Louisiana? Put James Lee Burke in there.
Hmm.
So, I mean, why do you think? Now, some of them come here. Fanny Flagg came and lived here for a while, and she
Right.
finally got sick of us and went back to California. But for a while, she. I mean, I include me just because I'm talking about it, but
Well, because
uh,
you're a New York Times bestseller of
well,
26 books. Yeah.
but I'm sitting there talking to Winston Groom, and I feel like just like a nothing. And Winston passed away before I got the studio, and it just kills me because I always wanted to be sitting there talking to him. But Winston, Fannie Flagg, W.E.B. Griffin. Uh, um,
William Faulkner, Eudora Welty. I mean, there's
well,
so
I'm just
many.
saying, like Leslie Ann Tarabella, all these
Yep.
people lived within 30 minutes of me.
Yes, right.
And so,
Right.
what is it about the South?
Well, I'll tell you my theory, and I bet
Okay.
you have your own theory too. So, and my theory is a bit personal to my experience growing up. It's certainly not true for everyone, but I think there is a unique relationship among Southern people to the land. We have such a rich agricultural and timber tradition, and folks tend to live uh, often more rural environments. And there's a real family focus. I'm not saying other parts of the country don't have that family focus too, but when I was growing up, every Sunday we would go visit, and we just go visit people and people would come visit us. And storytelling was a major form of entertainment. We got three channels and none
And
of
one
them,
and,
all
and
of
one of them didn't work, right?
yeah, I mean they're all fuzzy. I was out in the middle of, electric bills. And when I came home from school, because I was so far out, I was home from school. So I spent a lot of time, as so many Southern writers have, really getting comfortable with who they are and also spending time in nature. And I think if you read any Southern book, you're gonna find a lot of details. Even if it's set in an urban setting, there's gonna be this connection to the history of the place, the way that the place has shaped the characters, and the way that their engagement with the natural environment shapes the characters. And just for example, in Smack Dab, I was really deliberate about setting it into emerging spring, because spring is hope. And because Southern writers have such that a deep attachment um, to things that are going around them in nature, and they're paying attention and they're hearing great storytellers, they're learning from great storytellers. I think that helps make them great storytellers. And
Yeah.
I'm just thrilled to be able to participate in in some small part in that tradition.
Well, you're participating in a big way. This book was a Publishers Weekly bestseller. I mean, just to have your children's book be recognized is I think that's huge because
Well, thank you.
I know how hard it is just to get a regular book out there. But I think because everybody thinks they can write a children's book, I think that there's just too many of them. But yours is different. It's not. I say children's book because I guess that's how I started thinking about it. But this is a book for everybody. I'm just telling
Well,
you, this is a
thank
book
you.
for everybody. The main character Cricket, and then her little friend. I won't reveal who that little friend is. You have to read the book to find out. But this is a book you're going to want to give as a gift. So there is obvious. There's so much like survival stuff in this
Mhm,
book, and
mhm.
and and so you became an expert at that, and you created, because I introduced you as an entrepreneur at the beginning, you created outdoorosity.com,
Mhm,
right?
mhm.
Now I've been
A
on
dot
that
org.
site.
Yeah, yeah,
.org. Okay. All right.
yes, yeah.
Um, outdoorosity.org. And I've been on the site. I've looked around, hunted around. I just loved it.
Thank you, thank
Yeah.
you.
Explain what was your initial thoughts putting that together?
So one of the things that, like you, I try and do in life is surround myself by really, really smart people who are also very generous and have a vision of impacting the community. And so the way that I picked my law firm, the White Law Firm, is because the one of the members for whose family the firm is named helped preserve over 100,000 acres in the Blue Ridge Escarpment. So has that connection with nature, and he um, he took the approach that he didn't need permission to do something. If something needed to be done, he just did it. So he designed a bridge. He preserved all this land. He published multiple books of nature photography. And so I sort of took that approach, and I saw with today's young people definitely get more than three channels. And they also have, all sorts of technology available to them. And I was inspired by reading about a list that the UK had done, listing things that children should do outdoors before they grow up. And I thought, well, why isn't anyone doing that here? And with my fascination, and I've long been a student of the benefits of getting out in nature, I thought, let me do it. So I launched it in 2013. I'm, have interns, just interviewing another crop of interns. And we've really tried to create a space where people can go and get completely free ideas of things to do out in nature. And spring is coming up. The official date of spring is March 20th. We'll have a bucket list of free things that you can do outdoors in spring, wherever it is you are. And hopefully, lots of things just to get you excited. Maybe it's only 5 minutes a day. But I tell you what, if you start your day outside, you will notice a difference in your day.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally agree with that. Um, the idea of putting all that on in one place and using the interns, using your contributors, uh, having that variety of stuff from different directions, I think is awesome. And the book list that you provide, the
Oh, thank
recommended
you.
books, I thought that was very cool. And I knew that you and I would get along when I saw The Other Side of the Mountain on the
That,
book list.
that is actually the inspiration when people ask what um, inspired my book, My Side of the Mountain, from the mixed up files of Mrs. Basil Lee Frankweiler, all in one book. That book was so life changing for me.
And I,
I
I don't
love that
know.
book.
It's like today, I don't know if anybody other than you or me has heard of My Side of the Mountain.
I think there's still, I tell you what, everywhere I speak, I talk about My Side of the Mountain.
Well, it's a great book. I even like the
Mhm.
movie.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
just and I cringe when I think about the peregrine. So you know which part I'm talking about when the
Yeah.
peregrine
Yeah.
gets killed. So anyway, man, well, how can we help you, Joe? How can we help you?
Oh, well, I tell you what, I am on a mission. As I think you know, I'm a first generation college grad. My parents are very, very loving, but they hadn't had the opportunity to go to college. And we didn't have the money to send me to college full pay. So thanks to great educators at my high school and college, got scholarships. And so I have turned that into my mission to help students build grit and resiliency. And I would say help just by spreading the word. So I have tons and tons of free resources and grant opportunities for educators. So if you want me to, I'll tell you about them.
Yeah,
They
please
can also
do. Please do.
okay, all right. So I was, with great parents, I learned a lot of the principles that you talk about in your books, just naturally growing up.
Sure.
But a lot of people don't have that. And so I've long, as you might tell, I'm kind of a data nerd. And so looked at the things that, what are the drivers that can help people who don't have that background develop skills that promote grit and resiliency. So I worked with a neuroscience major and experienced educators. And we developed a building grit kit. It's a 50-page workbook. You can print it out for free on my website. I'm offering a grant opportunity for a free mentored implementation of it. And in the pilot group of students with whom I did it, the students saw gains ranging from 5% to 59% in measures of grit and resiliency after 6 weeks. So I would love, love, love to see more and more students benefit from that. Also, as a writer, I developed a writing and revision toolkit. You can find that on my website completely for free. I just worked with an entire school district on that. And the way I was inspired by that is as a lawyer, if you've got an extra zero in a contract, that's a big problem. So the proofing that I did was I take a ruler and just go down the page. And I thought, well, what if I could create that for students, elementary, middle school, high school, and they could use some of those same techniques of, focusing on every line, but applying it to their academic work and their creative writing. So I've got a bookmark. One side's for creative writing, one side's for academic writing, completely free on the website. There's also a summer adventure kit to get kids out in nature. I've got an educator's guide. I've got over 30 lesson plans done in collaboration with my educator friends. I've got Woods Time Adventures to get students outdoors and children outside and families outdoors. I've got cricket challenges with little challenges on my YouTube channel. I've got an activity guide with lots of STEAM things that they can do outdoors. I've got a book trailer. And the book trailer features the voice of my dear friend, Jane Robelo, who some of you all may remember from national news. And she's just an amazing figure. She's just on the news for interviewing Jimmy Carter. And she does the voiceover. And Lyda Burris Gibson, a very talented Mississippi filmmaker, filmed the trailer.
Wow.
You can also find an interactive map with links to the real Southern places, that inspired parts of Smack Dab, a hidden object search featuring items from the Clue Trail, a book club kit with book club questions for young readers, and since half of my readership has been adults, also for older readers, a playlist featuring Mississippi artists. And I will tell you, if you want to have fun, consider putting together a playlist, because I got to be like a music critic and I got to discover new artists and write about how each song connected to a part of the book. And it was just tremendous fun. I discovered amazing artists through that process.
Wow.
And then a book club menu. So my cousin, Elizabeth Magruder Joyner, is an amazing cook. And so on my YouTube channel, you can see her make the recipes. They all feature genuine Mississippi ingredients. And I collaborated with Genuine Mississippi products to make sure we use that. And then on the playlist, I collaborated with the Mississippi Arts Commission to make sure we did that. Finally, bookmarks with free fun things to do outdoors and make reading more fun. An interactive clue trail with challenges that readers can solve using the things they read in the book, and then grant opportunities, completely free. So one we've already talked about, which is the Building Grit Kit intervention. Another is a study to participate in nature, very easy to implement, low impact nature interventions around standardized testing. Because based on anecdotal reports through all of my inner tours throughout schools, I've heard how nature can help students perform better on standardized tests, and now I want to measure that data. And then finally, a grant to help educators bring little bite-sized pieces of nature into their school environment. So that's a big, long list, probably more than you asked for, but I hope that it demonstrates for you my passion for helping students and helping to build up this next generation of students and supporting educators.
At some point in your life, you might get to sleep.
I sleep well. I sleep well.
That sounds really busy. And so,
it is.
But that's what a great resource. Thank you for providing that for everybody. And we will we'll have everything on the show notes. And your buddy, my wife, said to tell you hello.
Well, please tell Polly I said hey.
She was so excited that you were here today.
Well, I'm excited too. Well, thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. And we'll see you again sometime. Let's keep in touch, okay?
All right. Sounds great.
Right.
It's a deal.
Bye-bye.
All right. Thanks so much. Bye.
I'm Andy Andrews, the professional noticer, harnessing common sense and wisdom to plow through challenges all the way to an answer for you. And I think that'll do it for this week. Get us out of here, Matthew. So, ladies and gentlemen, and to the boys and girls who aspire to become ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the end of another episode of The Professional Noticer. In a world where common sense has become a superpower, I'm harnessing that tiny bit of mental energy I have for you, seeking wisdom, making observations, and endeavoring to answer tough questions in a way that will empower your family and your business. I'm Andy Andrews. Until next week, goodbye. This episode of The Professional Noticer was produced by Matt Lemper. The Noticer theme written and performed by Sugarcane Jane. Number 6 brim hooks for the cast and crew provided by Twinkle and Smoke of Beverly Hills. Additional financial consideration provided by Bittersweet.com. Do you need to lose a few pounds? Are you ready for a taste treat like you've never experienced? Well, log on now and place your first order at bittersweet.com. We specialize in providing you with natural foods that have unnatural additives that cause the item's traditional taste to be practically unrecognizable. Right now, we have a special buy one, get one free on 5-pound bags of chemically enhanced sugar. Hey, you know sugar's bad for you. Make the switch to Bittersweet brand bitter sugar, and we promise you'll cut back on your sugar intake. Our bitter sugar is like real sugar, just like you've used for years. And it looks like sugar because it's sugar. It's white and granular, but bitter sugar is not sweet. No, it is not. Dried and powdered green persimmon is mixed with the sugar to create a very turn-your-mouth-inside-out kind of product. Bitter sugar. Trust us. Commit to only using Bittersweet brand bitter sugar. Commit to using bitter sugar in your pies and cakes, your cooking, your coffee, anywhere you use regular plain old sugar. Commit to using bitter sugar, and it won't be long. You'll be avoiding pies and cakes and coffee just because they taste so bad. You'll see pounds melt off, and you'll just feel healthier. Let us help you achieve the life you think you deserve. Become a loyal supporter of bitter sugar, also available in individual serving paper packages, only at bittersweet.com.